Good morning, students. Today we will have to discuss the female reproductive cycle, and in that particular female reproductive system we will have to study the menstrual cycle. Just we have discussed that after puberty the GnRH is released from the hypothalamus and it acts upon the FSH, and the FSH release hormone act upon the pituitary, and pituitary release different hormones, that is FSH and LH, and that FSH act upon the ovary. What happens in that particular ovary we have discussed. That firstly, that FSH act upon the oldest primary graphene follicles and they start to mature, and during maturation they release FSH, they release estrogen. What is the action of the estrogen on endometrial lining? What changes take place in the endometrial lining? When the endometrial lining thickened, why they thickened? What is the cause of thickening? Who is responsible to maintain the thickening? And we will study these all things under this particular subheadings that we call menstrual cycle. In case of menstrual cycle, we can study that menstrual cycle in three different phases. Number one, that is menstrual phase. You know that this particular menstrual cycle will be completed within 28 days, and that is called lunar month. Among this particular 28 days, the menstrual phase will be 3 to 5 days. What happens in this condition? These days, there is a vaginal weeping, the menstrual flow, the dead ova and ruptured tissues as well as blood capillaries will lay down or lay out from the body with the help of vagina. In this case, it has been observed that the estrogen and progesterone level is very low, and it lasts for 3 to 5 days. In second phase, that is called proliferative phase. Proliferative phase. It lasts 6 to 13 days. You must know that in the female reproductive system, the hormone, the ovarian activity, and the uterine activity, the changes in the uterus, the changes in the ovary, all are interrelated. So just we have discussed previously, and I will discuss it with the help of the figure also in later stage. The estrogen, when this estrogen is released, when this progesterone is released, in this condition, in the case of proliferation, we have observed that the progesterone, FSH and estrogen become high. It means there is a relation with the FSH and estrogen. When FSH act upon the primary graphene follicle, they start to move inside ovary towards the cortex, and maturation will be started. During that maturation, what happens? The estrogen will be released. And just we have told you previously that the estrogen is responsible for the thickening of endometrial lining. Thickening of endometrial lining. It means the endometrium become thickened. What is the cause of thickening? That is the high vascularization. The blood capillaries are filled with the high blood pressure, and due to that it becomes thickened, and the main cause of the thickening is that particular preparing that endometrium for the plantation of the ova. Now this estrogen is responsible for the thickening, and this particular thickening take 6 to 13 days. At the meantime, what happens? LH is also being released from the pituitary, and it acts upon the matured Graafian follicle to release ova, and that is called ovulation. After ovulation, what happens? The certain part of the matured Graafian follicle retained inside the ovary, and that retained part, when come in contact with the LH, they will form corpus luteum. And the third phase will be started, and that is called luteinizing or luteal phase. Luteal phase, and it lasts 15 to 28 days. Now what happens in this phase? We'll see that in this phase the progesterone level is very much increased, and the source of the progesterone is the corpus luteum. And this corpus luteum is formed by action of the LH on this particular remaining substance of the maturing Graafian follicle after ovulation, and it lasts from 15 to 28 days. Whenever in this period the ova, which will not be come in contact with this particular endometrial lining in zygote form or the embryonic form, then this phase will be started. Now whole of these things we will discuss with the help of the figure, and that is the LS of the ovary and the menstrual flow. In this particular menstrual cycle, we will compare the amount or the quantity of the hormones, thickness of the ovaries, and days in this particular field. See, just we have discussed previously that what type of factors are responsible for the menstrual cycle, and what happens when the FSH is released from the pituitary. Now we will see that it is the LS of the ovary, and here this particular primary follicles, after getting the FSH, it start to mature. That is the developing follicles or the maturing Graafian follicles. In this condition, what happens? They release estrogen, and estrogen is responsible for the maintaining the secondary sex characters of the female, as well as they are responsible for the maintaining the thickness of the endometrial lining. And whenever the endometrial lining will be started, we will study their things with the help of another figure, that is called proliferative phase. Now what happens? LH, that is luteinizing hormone, when released from the pituitary on this Graafian follicle, this matured Graafian follicles, ovulation takes place. Here the ova is coming out from the matured ova, that is in the form of the secondary oocyte is coming outside. It has meiotic one phase completed, and the meiotic second phase, the metaphase of the meiotic second phase is arrested in these things, and it is ready to receive the sperm also. Now what happens in this particular remaining parts, the LH act, and this LH is responsible for the formation of this particular corpus luteum. Now this corpus luteum is formed. It is yellow colored corpus luteum, and they are responsible to release progesterone, and the luteinizing phase will be started. It means this particular progesterone is responsible to maintain the thickening of the endometrial lining. Here you will also observe that there is a corpus albicans. Whenever it stop their work, it means the progesterone has no need, and that particular reproductive cycle has no need of the progesterone, then it become degenerate, it become non-functional, and it will form a just small white spot which is not in condition to release progesterone. Now what happens in the endometrial lining, what thickening, what type of changes will be takes place by endometrial lining, we will discuss in the second figure. Now here you will see that this part 1 to 4 parts, this is the menstrual phase. In this phase you will observe that the estrogen level and the progesterone level is very low. Estrogen and progesterone level is very low. It will only 3 days or 4 days like that. After that, what happens? Again, the FSH will be released. FSH will be released with the help of this GnRH from the hypothalamus, act upon the pituitary. The FSH is released, and this FSH again act upon this particular secondary follicle for the maturation. Here you will see that the maturation of the follicle takes place and the estrogen is released. Due to this estrogen, when the estrogen level is very high, FSH is also high, estrogen is high, it means both FSH and estrogen is high, and the endometrial lining is gradually thickened. You will see that this is the thickening of the endometrial lining, and this thickening is gradually increased. It will also increase, this will also increase, and this level, up to this level we can say that it is the follicular phase, and it lasts from 6 to 13 days. Now here we will see that the LH act upon this particular mature Graafian follicle and release ova. It is the ova, and that ova is received by the fimbriae inside the fallopian tube, and they ultimately go to the uterus for further development or the fertilizations. But here what happens? This particular corpus luteum, this will convert into corpus luteum. With the help of LH, it will convert into corpus luteum, and this particular thickened part is maintained by this one. And this maintenance is up to the 28th age. That is the action of the progesterone. Estrogen is also up to mark. Estrogen is also doing their work. It means thickening is gradually increased. Here we will see that the thickening is gradually increased. And the progesterone is not responsible for the thickening, but responsible for the maintain the thickening of the endometrial lining by producing more and more mucus-like substances, viscous substances, and it is called proliferative phase. It is called luteinizing phase because the action of the corpus luteum. Whenever in this phase, after this particular 28th day, the sperm will not come in contact with the ova, then what happens? The progesterone level is very much reduced because the corpus luteum is converted into corpus albicans, and again this menstrual flow will be started at 1-2. It means 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2 will be started and the menstrual flow will be started. So this is all about the corpus, that is the ovarian cycle or the menstrual cycle. If the ova which will be received by the fallopian tube will be fertilized, then what happens? If fertilization takes place, and that will be embedded in the endometrial lining, then a LH type hormone, that is called chorionic gonadotropin, that will be released, and they are responsible for maintenance of the corpus luteum. It means the chorionic gonadotropin will be released from the uterus, and they are responsible for maintaining the corpus luteum of the ovary. It means they are equal to that of the LH. It means their nature is LH-like, and the progesterone level will be continued. The progesterone is just released from the corpus luteum, and ultimately this particular level will be maintained. At the meantime, what happens? The placenta is formed, and the placenta is responsible for the production of the estrogen, progesterone, gonadotropin, etc., and they are responsible for the maintaining the pregnancy. Now, in the next classes, we will discuss how fertilization takes place, how embryonic development takes place, and how parturition takes place. This is all about this class.